It was about 5 years ago now that I was totally depressed. I was lonely, I was anxious, I had no motivation, I didn't even want to get out of bed. If you've ever struggled with depression, you know it's like this mist or this dark fog that you can't seem to swim out of. It's as if the more you fight it, the more it swallows you. For me, it arose from a lot of disillusionment with what people had told me about Jesus to what actually started happening when I followed him. I was told my life would turn around, that everything would get fixed, or that I'd be happy and everything would change, and it did, just not the way I thought. Relationships broke, addictions stayed, and that pervasive feeling of loneliness kept gnawing at me. That's when I found this really strange verse in the Old Testament. Talking about Israel, in the book of Hosea, God says, "Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and I will speak tenderly to her." I mean, how weird is that verse? Wilderness was dark, it was dry, it had no life, it just represented death, ache, decay, and pain, and yet God said he was going to allure them there. There's this romance where he says, "I'm going to lead them into the wilderness and speak tenderly to them." One thing I always find funny about the stars is they're always out, even though we only notice them at night. Every time you look up, they're there. They don't change, but our perspective does. When they're given a black background of the night sky, they shine, they shimmer, and they glow. It's as if there's this particular glory that only emanates when darkness shows up. It's as if sometimes there's things we can only see in the dark. The dark reveals this beauty that we wouldn't have been able to see otherwise, and maybe that's God. Maybe instead of cursing the wilderness or the dry season or thinking something is wrong with us, maybe instead we look up and we see his glow. Maybe he has a special display for us at night, and maybe he shines even brighter when we feel like everything is going crazy, and maybe all we have to do is keep looking up. Some friends of mine, they have this song where they say this line, "We fix our eyes on what we know is true. Even in our shame, grace makes a way through. Be our obsession, be our constellation, because you are light in and out of every season." See, God, he's this focal point. He's this unchanging bright star, and he calls us to stare, to look, to behold, especially when it feels like everything is spiraling out of control. Because if you think about it, one thing we all know is that sometimes, if you really want to see the stars in all their glory, you have to go out into the wilderness.
No one can undo what you've done.